We talk about so many different aspects of not only being a traveler, but of life itself here on Travel Evolved. And today we're going to tackle a tough one, but an important one. That's right, we're going to tackle spiritual health on this week's edition of Travel Evolved. This is Travel Evolved. I am Mark Holloway. Welcome to the episode, everybody. I'm doing this because this is an interesting one. This topic, how do I explain this topic? Well, we're going to jump in and explain in a second exactly what is spiritual health. What do they mean by that? And why would we possibly be doing an entire episode dedicated to spiritual health? Well, because it's important. This is one of those episodes that is not about numbers. It's not about tips. It's not anything I think you're going to hear and see anywhere else with regard to being a traveling healthcare professional. But your good friends at Travel Evolved, we're going to tackle it because it really is. It's part of the deal. It's part of the gig. It's part of who you guys are and what you should be striving for. This is one of those episodes that kind of falls into any category. I don't care where you are in this realm. If you're a competitor, you're a recruiter, you're a CEO in our company, you're a traveler yourself, you're a manager of a unit, you're a credentialing specialist, all these things, it doesn't matter. It's all about your spiritual health today. So here we go, jumping right in. I think this episode is one that, like I said, it's a little unique. Again, you can find episodes on spiritual health and all different types of other podcasts. But again, we're gonna jump into this one. So first and foremost, thank you guys all for those of you that have jumped on to Travel Evolved, our Facebook group. We really appreciate that. Our lives that we're doing twice a week on both Monday and Thursday evenings are starting to really pick up. Again, those are currently we're doing those at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Time. And we're going to continue that. Again, we're kind of catching up. At some point, we'll probably drop down to once a week because we're going to be going live on YouTube. We're going to be going live on TikTok. We're going to continue to do the lives on Facebook. So I guess for time's sake and so that I'm not going live literally every single night, which I just can't do. We're going to cut that back. So hopefully we'll catch up and get caught us back up to some of those older episodes, which we're doing. We really are going back and hitting that first season. And again, we're discussing certain topics. When we go live on TikTok and on YouTube, hopefully the idea will be that we'll just let the conversation flow. Again, anything you guys want to ask on any of the lives that you're going to see now or potentially down the road. Like I say, just because we're recording this now doesn't mean that 2 years from now we won't be going live all the time on not only those platforms I mentioned, but maybe a few others. So we really hope at that point that it's just no holes barred. Just ask any question you want. We'll do our best to answer it. Hopefully some other people will be on board. We'll get some, especially on some areas like on TikTok, I know we can get a bunch of different travelers, maybe even some competitors on there, and just have a real good round-robin discussion about certain topics as we see fit. Who knows what the future's going to hold with healthcare travel, but we're certainly excited about it at Next Gen MedStaff. We're certainly excited about it here at Travel Evolved, our tool. It's not really a part of Next Gen MedStaff. It's a completely separate thing. Always is meant to be. But as we move into 2023 and when this is being recorded, there's just too much not to talk about. And obviously here in about a month, we're going to start really delving into what we were doing literally 3 years ago when we came up with the idea of Next Gen Med Staff and why we felt it was absolutely time to, I guess, put a ripple through the industry, to really turn the industry on its tail, to really disrupt and change, in our opinion, the way travelers travel and how you guys search and find your assignments, how you select the assignments that you're looking for, how you're informed, how you communicate. And that was one of the most important things that we wanted to do. And I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to tell you guys all the stuff that happened, good, bad, and indifferent. Now, the names will be changed to protect the innocent. But at the end of the day, I do want you guys to see what it's like to try to come up with something that we felt was, I mean, how do we do this? How do we take an industry and go up against all these monsters? And I'm talking about not only the big companies, but just the monsters of every single person doing things, every agency acting in the exact same manner. How do we come in a different angle and swim in a different colored stream and say, hey, there's an option? And it was scary, exciting, all at the same time. So I'm looking forward to that. Like I say, when I get back from the beautiful state of Florida here, matter of fact, this episode will be aired, and I'll be there already working down there with a pretty big system, as you guys know, trying to look at some ways for Next Gen Med Staff actually to work a little closer in hand with one of the big vendors down there, and to help them and kind of be a little bit more involved than most other companies are with their staffing. So we're excited about that opportunity for sure, and we're going to be working pretty hand in hand with them. So when I get back, that will be really the time that we're going to start really hitting this. So early in March, we're really going to start walking you guys through that story. So that was a big intro to tell you guys what we're doing, but we're really excited about it. And honestly, I think it's kind of cool. You know, one of the things I wanted to do with Travel Evolved was eventually start to, have more than just an episode about spiritual health in this case, and really start to kind of walk you through specifically what we were doing. So at the end of each episode, I think we'll do it at the end or sometime throughout the middle. Maybe I'll throw it in different times to keep the listener engaged, so to speak. I'll have listened to what I had done in the week that was literally 3 years prior. And I'm going to try to encapsulate that in my notes and say, hey, this is what I was going through. And like I said, I'm going to tell you guys everything. I don't care if it's, how we were raising money, how we got the whole idea started, the legal process, forming the company, the things that some of you guys are interested in. The reason I'm doing it is I feel like 3 years is a good head start on what we're doing. We are definitely gaining a pretty decent amount of market share with those travelers that are interested in trying a better, we think better, and certainly a more lucrative way to travel. So we're going to let you guys know what we were doing, and it'll be pretty cool because obviously 3 years from today, it'll be, that'll be down the road. It'll be when we're talking about what happened this week. That'll be in the early part, I guess, of 2027, right? No, 2026. So that'll be kind of interesting. What I'm doing now, you guys won't know about until 2026. Keep doing that. So there's a reason why we're doing that. Again, I'm not trying to give away the ship, but I do want you guys to kind of come along that journey with us. It's going to be kind of fun to see, and I think, like I've always said, it'll give you guys a unique understanding, I think, of what it's like to be on this side of the desk. I don't necessarily, want your empathy or for you guys to, think that agencies are the greatest thing on the planet. Far be it. I get where we are and where we stand on the pecking order and what most travelers think of agencies in general. But I do think that if you kind of come along in that ride with me, you might understand how it is that we are kind of a necessary part of this cog and how we function. And I think we can learn how to work really well together to do what it is we want to do, and that is to have you guys make a lot more money than you are at facilities, have jobs come faster to you, be able to get in front of the jobs you want quicker, and really, I guess, catapult your travel career to a higher level where the hospitals win, you guys win, and we change the model of what an agency does, if that makes sense, and how we do it to a reasonable, I think, compensation or piece of the pie for what it is that we do, which I think, like I always said, is not that difficult. That being said, I can tell you what the last 3 years have been like. Whew. Okay, what exactly is spiritual health? Well, if you look it up on the internet, there's a whole bunch of different definitions of what spiritual health is. We did an episode on Travel Insiders about this, and we really took a very religious view of it. And I don't want to do that tonight because I don't think spiritual health really, with the word spiritual, may put out a few people. It may make people think, oh, I don't want I don't want to do that episode. That's going to be about, religion and that sort of thing. No, not so much. It's really about you being at peace with your own life and how that looks for you. It's having spiritual health. It really helps you support yourself in the experiences that you have in your life, your competence, your confidence in the direction in which you're going. Like I say, it's kind of a broad concept, but if it's a belief in something beyond you, beyond the self, so to speak. And I think that's an important aspect to kind of really think about. So when I say spiritual health, it's really, really different for every single person out there that's listening to me. But the idea is to be able to really gain a very complete understanding of who you are, having that balance of what you're driving for, where you've come from, the individual that you are, the good, the bad, and always constantly trying to improve upon your life and who you are. Kind of a really vague description, so to speak, but I think you'll understand a little more as we go along, if you don't already know. But really, like I say, it's really mostly about being at peace with your own life while still trying to strive and continue to move down the road that all of us want to progress down, and that is to become a better and better human. And to understand, I think, your own faults, your strengths, the things you need to work on, things you need to focus on, but having that confidence that I know where I am, where I want to go, and I'm starting to get really healthy with that spirituality of myself, I guess, for lack of a better word. It's a hard one to describe and to really explain, and I'm doing the best I can. Here's some aspects of spiritual health that I think will be important. Like I just said, first of all, it's a striving for greater good for you and for other people that are a part of your life, whether it's all of humanity or your immediate family, friends. You have a really good understanding of where you've come from. And listen, all of us have had a journey in our life. And I don't want to get too philosophical, as I always want to do on these episodes, but every person, I don't care if you're in your 20s, you're in your 60s or 70s, anywhere in between, you're younger than that, you're older than that, we've all have a journey that we're taking in this life. And listen, I know that, have you ever had the phrase where you always say, this happens for a reason? I truly believe that. I've lived that. Next Gen Med Staff is a completely the personification of things are meant, happen for a reason. Things happen for a reason. And I didn't understand, as I'll talk about in a month from now, why my journey was what it was, but I absolutely do now. I did 3 years ago, almost. 3 years ago right now, I was really struggling with what am I going to do? What's going on? Why is all this happening? And why did this happen? And some of the mistakes that I was making, repeated mistakes I was making. And it all came to an understanding. And for me, I will tell you guys that, first of all, I've never been happier than I have been in the last 3 years. That's. I don't know if you can see that or know that, or you can tell that I'm generally a very happy person, because I believe in what Next Gen Med Staff is doing for this industry and how that affects me personally. I feel good about being the CEO of this particular company, when I always haven't necessarily felt good about being involved in a company or running a company or any level of a company, especially in healthcare staffing I've ever been involved in. Many times I didn't feel that good at all about them. This one's night and day, because I'm passionate about this and I believe so strong in it. It's part of my spiritual, growth and me getting healthier and healthier. Listen, I sleep good at night. I know we're taking good travelers, whereas it feels different. It's what I always wanted. I just didn't know that's what I always wanted. So I can tell you, for me, things happening for a reason. I've lived it. I hope many of you guys have. And when we're talking about finding hope and comfort in some of your darkest times, I've done a lot of things all out in social media. I've done those snippets, and one of the things I've always said was that it's really difficult to find something good when it feels like your world is collapsing around you. Well, when you have good spiritual health, you're not concerned. You know that, A, this is temporary. Life is this. Last time I checked, I don't know anybody that has a great life that goes up or stays straight. Life is a series of peaks and valleys. When you have strong spiritual health and you're confident in who you are, in your being, where you're going, those valleys tend to be a lot lower. They may just be as low as everybody else's, but they don't feel that way to you. So what I'm getting at is that when you feel like there is something that you're being presented with that just feels like I don't care if you're going through a divorce, I don't care if you're having trouble finding your next assignment, if you're really struggling with personnel on your current assignment, you're questioning your career moves and your changes, whether you're thinking about being a traveler and you're just miserable in your staff positions or vice versa. This is what life is, and having a good, solid spiritual health will help you get through that, which means we're all going to go through this stuff in our lives. We're all going to go through times when, I don't know about you guys, but it feels like you hit your bottom, you come up. When you feel like things are going so well, it's like, be careful, because something potentially is going to come in that's going to set you back and throw you back. But there is a journey that we're all on that will get us to that point. So when you're having your hardest times, having good, strong spiritual health, and I'll talk about what that looks like here in a minute, helps you cope and understand and give you even comfort in those dark times, in those tough times. So no matter what anybody's going through out there right now, if you're spiritually healthy, you guys know this is going to be very, very temporary. So again, not to get too philosophical, but when you have good, strong spiritual health, you kind of feel connected to, I guess, a higher power. And again, we can talk about religion if you want to. I probably am not going to. But you're more connected to not only a higher power, but you're more connected to the people around you. You're paying attention to others. You're not self-absorbed. You are aware of your relationship with somebody, let's say you're talking to, but you're genuinely listening and worrying and caring and concerned and giving guidance to that individual rather than thinking about how does this affect me. I got to tell you, we live in a world where it feels like it's all me all the time. And I do believe that if you've got strong spiritual health, you're more concerned about the people that are around you, and it emulates that way. And I can tell you, I've got 2 kids in college right now, and anybody that has had kids in college knows that I got to tell you, I almost feel like that's when the biggest parenting sometimes exists. Yes, there's stages in life where you're parenting, but I don't know how you guys have experienced if you have yet. But when you have 2 kids in college, it's almost like you're parenting adults, and it's a different level, which means they're now becoming adults. They're not living in your home. They've got decisions and consequences to those decisions, both positively and negatively, that they're making. And what I'm getting at is that I'm really working and focusing on my spiritual health with my kids, being very, very connected with them, being there for them as a parent, as a mentor, as somebody who's been there and been in that experience before, and I'm doing the best I can to be present in the here and now. And it's not about me. It's about them, and not about the kind of parent I am or how this reflects upon me. It's about what it is that I can do for my kids in this case that can help them move through their own particular learning curves, their life cycle that they're going through right now, and get through this kind of tough phase that is, in fact, being anywhere from 19 to 21, which they both are at this point. So again, spiritual, it gives you a lot of connection with people around you, higher power if you want to, and you want to go down that road. I absolutely would agree with that. But it gives you a lot of clarity. And when you have super strong spiritual health, again, when you know who you are and you can take a step back, and the things we're going to talk about here, when you've been able to reflect and get to know yourself again, it gives you a lot more clarity in making everyday decisions and to give everyday guidance and care and advice to your friends, to your family, to your employees, to the people that you guys are working around or with, even the people that you work for. If you're dealing with a unit manager, spiritual health, when you know you're healthy spiritually, it gives you that clarity to be able to help others. And you just can do a better job of being not only a friend, but a person in general. So I want to talk a bit about the 3 real aspects of spirituality. And we're talking about mind, body, and spirit, right? All right, so let's talk about the mind first. What does Mark mean? How do I get to have spiritual, health? Well, we're talking about, first and foremost, I think one of the easiest parts of our discussion today really is about the mind. And that is basically, having clear and very precise thinking. Listen, I think as we get older, gosh, I really can't help but start to get very philosophical this episode. Sorry, it's one of those episodes. I can't help it. Remember when you're a kid and you're like laying around and you're staring up at the clouds and you just have, it seemed like summers lasted forever. It seemed like the school year lasted forever. I work in so many 13-week increments, and you guys do as well, more so than me, because I've got people working all different times. But when you guys are doing 4 assignments a year, I bet those feel like they go by, hopefully, relatively quickly, which means your year goes by quickly. I strongly believe, I don't know what it is, but we are designed so that as time goes by, as we get older and older, it feels like life speeds up. Again, there's no young person listening to me that's going to understand what I'm going to say. Everybody who's older than me knows it better than I do. People that are my age get it as well. That you feel like you've got all the time in the world when you're young, and how fast it goes. Again, let me repeat that. Every person that's in their 20s that just listened to that is like, yeah, I've heard that before. You guys don't understand. You really don't. And there's no way for me to explain it to you. When you're living it, you start to understand it. And I think, I was lucky enough to have kids. It feels like those first few years when you've got, like, for example, 2 in diapers or whatever, it's just like, oh my gosh, this is just the most crazy, insane amount of time. It speeds up. That feels to me like it's just a few literally years ago. I just told you I have a 19-year-old and a 21-year-old. As you get older, and people that are older than me, I'm guessing, just like I don't understand truly, when you're in your 70s and 80s and hopefully, God willing, your 90s, I think life is so incredibly fast that it feels like it's spinning out of control. I would imagine that's the case. And it's hard for me to understand it, just as hard as it is for a 20-year-old person to understand. And really, I know you guys understand what I'm saying, but you don't really get it until you've lived there. So what I'm getting at is when you can have a clear and precise thinking in your mind, I think as we move into our careers, right past where my kids are going to be right now, I think you start to quickly get busy with life. And this is where I think we lose our spiritual health, because the mind part of our spiritual health gets really pushed behind. You're so focused on others, and I don't mean like I just talked about in a good way. You're focused in the chaos of others, whether it's family, spouses, friends that are needy, employees, employers, that you absolutely lose touch with you. We just do. I don't think you can deny that. I don't think that, listen, when I have a break, you guys know me, I'm well documented. When I'm done at work, sometimes I'm like this, comatose in front of a hockey game, a team I don't even care about because it's mindless and my brain is fried. Really the wrong thing to be doing. We got to stay off of social media. We got to stay out in front of the television set. And honestly, even stay away from even books and online things. Like I said, our phones, we got to get off those things to kind of get to know and do some real clear thinking, to get precise about thoughts and be alone with yourself in your own head for a while. Super easy for me to sit there and preach on a podcast. Really, really difficult to accomplish. And I am just as guilty as everybody else out there. It is hard. But I think that if you focus on it and say, you know what, I'm just not going to turn on the TV. I'm just going to keep my cell phone away from me for a while. And I'm just going to, have some dinner. And while I'm cooking, I'm not going to be distracted with games or with, social media and a television in the kitchen. Let's just cook some dinner, and let's have some dinner with either alone if you're on the road, or with somebody you care about, and let's talk and let's think and let's get to know ourselves better. That's probably the one of the most important aspects of spiritual health, is getting your mind back. And listen, I say all the time, I've told you guys, when it's time to be done with an assignment, you got to learn how to decompress. So many of you go from assignment to assignment to assignment to assignment because you're so focused on earning that money, which is wonderful. I get it, but you got to start taking time for yourself. When you guys go on a real vacation, not a working vacation, just lay there. Lay by the pool. Don't have your phone with you. Just enjoy watching, whatever it is you want to do. Go on a golf course, play some golf, enjoy some friendship. This is the part that having clear and precise thinking, I think, is one of the most easiest aspects of spiritual health, is understanding that this is something I and all of us need to work on. Clear, precise brain and thinking. So let's talk about the body. I talk about that a lot. I mean, when it comes to spiritual health, part of what the people talk about when they're looking at that is mind, body, and spirit. The body's got to be healthy, and we've done numerous episodes. You guys wonder why I focus so many episodes on health and well-being with your physical state, because it's super important. Ask anybody who is fortunate enough to go through life and live a long life, whatever that long term means to you. when it's toward the end, everybody will tell you the most important thing is your health. It's not about how much money you made. It's not about the house you live in, the car you drive in, the how attractive your spouse was, how smart your kids are, or what school they went to, or what they're doing as a career. It's about, am I healthy now? And this is why it's so hard sometimes for me to see healthcare providers that focus so heavily on their patients, and you guys are so giving, and oftentimes so rough on your own body, whether it's the hours and the stress you put on your body, to what you're putting into your body. For those of you that still smoke, or those of you that overdrink, this stuff is you got to get away from that. If you want to have good spiritual health, the body is part of it. I'm not going to spend too much time on that because I do plenty of episodes, but if you ever wonder why, this is kind of part of it. I believe that physical health is incredibly important. I'm going to finish this podcast. It's pretty, by the way, I'm recording this pretty late at night. I'm going to go jump in a cold pool at my gym. It's not warm, trust me, because I love that cardiovascular workout. It's my favorite one. It's also the one I dread the most. But when I leave the gym and I've done a whole bunch of laps, my whole body is like, okay, I gave oxygen to every piece of me. I mean, talk about your heart beating out of your chest. I don't care how. I'm at the age now, if I don't go pretty good, I start to sink a little bit. So it is a great cardiovascular workout. It's important to me. I'm not going on a treadmill or doing elliptical half speed. No. I am doing the best to keep this vessel that I live in as healthy as I possibly can for as long as I can. It's important for you guys to do the same thing too. I can't stress it enough, especially, again, look at your coworkers, look at people in healthcare. There are too many people taking care of others that neglect themselves. And I hope that the episodes we do on Travel Evolved are meant and are taken, are accepted by you guys, because that's what we're trying to accomplish. I'm trying to get you guys to be around, be healthier, live longer, take care of yourself. And I'll get off my soapbox about that. Okay, the spiritual side, probably one of the most difficult ones, I think, to talk about. Listen, religion anymore is, you have to be careful talking about religion on anything. I think people don't necessarily want to hear about religion from somebody else. I think it's a very personal thing. I'm just, again, speaking off the cuff. I don't like it when someone approaches me or is putting their own values onto me. I have incredibly strong religious values. Again, I've got a cancer-surviving daughter, as most of you guys know. So for me, I have my own journey in that aspect, and I'm not going to share it on Travel Evolved. It's very personal, just like I wouldn't ever tell you guys what to think or how to feel. But I do know that whatever your higher purpose is, you've got to have something along those lines. I just don't believe, and again, to be philosophical, I don't believe that you can live life without thinking there are any consequences to your actions or how you treat other people, your fellow men and women. We need that in our world. We need to know. I mean, look at the countries that are lawless, that are that way, that have no regard for human life. It's really scary, really quick. And there are countries right now, people right now, murdering each other, killing each other, genocide stuff happening, and it's unbelievably brutal, to say the very least. I believe that we all have to have a higher purpose. It makes us better people. It makes us better men and women. Whether you're religious or not religious, you still have to have that higher purpose, that my actions have consequences to me and potentially to to my soul, to my spirit, whatever that comes to you guys. But it's all part of those three things. All come together: your mind, your body, your spirit, to form spiritual health. And so that's what we're talking about today. It gives you a more clear purpose in life. All those things do. You can't just be physically fit and never think about life, never have mentally clustered and mentally weak and have no other purpose besides just be in physically good shape. That doesn't work. It's a combination of all three of those things that give you, in my opinion, that spiritual health. It's what gives you a clear sense of right and wrong, I guess, for lack of a better word. I think that's a lot of what spiritual health comes from, and that's really where we're talking about today, is that when you have a higher purpose and you understand and you've thought about clarity of the way I think and what I believe in, is that clear? Is it precise? Do I really agree with what I'm thinking, or am I just regurgitating things that I've thought about my whole life and never have actually really sat down and pondered? A lot of people do that. A lot of people get their information off of other people, whether it's on social media, on the television, and they just regurgitate that and just assume it's right without really, really thinking about, does that make sense to me? I think some of the smartest people I know constantly change their mind, constantly question their belief system because their opinions of how they feel about things change. That's spiritual health. That is mental strength right there, in my opinion. So it's hard to do that because we get so accustomed to how we were raised or what we think right now, especially this day and age when there's so many people's opinions, including what I'm telling you guys right now on social media, that influence our decision. I mean, they even call people influencers, right? Because the dumbest thing, no one's influencing anybody. I hope they're not. I hope no one's influencing you that easily because they're showing you how to put makeup on, or they're showing you, how to cook properly. That's not an influencer. I mean, I'm not trying to influence anybody here on Travel Evolve. We're just trying to educate you on some of the things I think you should know about. And I've always said, my opinion oftentimes should be way behind the opinion of your other fellow traveler, which I think means we're not influencers on Travel Evolved. We are telling what we want to tell, and hopefully it makes some sense to you guys, and it's working for you. Along those lines, I think when we talked about having decisions and thinking about the way you think about things, really think about it. If someone were to ask you to defend your opinion on something, I'm not going to use any examples because I don't want to, but anything that you're very passionate about, that is up for an opinion that could be different from somebody else's, are you able to explain your stance on an opinion with a lot of clarity, not necessarily convincingly, but just you understand this is the way I feel, and I'm very specific about why I feel this way. It doesn't mean right or wrong. That's great spiritual health. When you understand, here's how I feel and why. I can do that with my own personal religion. I can do that with a lot of different things. I can do a lot of really scary, tough topics out there in our world right now. I have opinions on most of them, and I have taken the time to at least be able to understand why it is that I feel that way. And I can understand and appreciate someone else's opinion. I don't believe I'm 100% right all the time just because my opinion happens to be that way. That's me working toward the best spiritual health I can and being able to at least understand why I believe what it is that I believe. It's not necessarily putting yourself in other people's positions. It's just understanding why you believe what you believe and why. It gives you kind of a clear sense of right and wrong in your mind. Do you guys have that? Do you guys have a very clear sense of what's right and what's wrong and trying to live that way? I think that to me is kind of the essence of what spiritual health really comes down to. So I think that's really a big part of it. When we talk about, and especially right now, and again, I don't mean to get too philosophical, but I don't think anybody who's, let's just say 35 plus that's listening to me right now, if you've been alive and been paying attention in the last, let's say, decade, it feels like in our country we have become very myopic in our opinions of things. And I am not pointing the finger at anybody. I'm saying we, all of us have. I don't know where that comes from. I don't know if we're so angry at people that difference in opinion than we do that we are just so ready to point the finger at other people and not at ourselves for why they are completely wrong and we're 100% right. We do not seem to practice compassion or empathy or even try to practice understanding for someone else's opinion, which then leads to the fact that it's hard for us to forgive people. And I'm not just looking at myself. I'm just saying that's the way it feels. Everything has become more aggressive. Everything has become more diverse when it comes to opinions. I do blame all media in general for, I think, really trying to stir the pot with us here in the United States, at least. I mean, I just see that. I see things where I see a lot of really good humans out there. I really do. And it feels to me like everyone keeps telling us we're not good. and that we don't care for each other, and that we don't love each other. We don't have compassion for each other. I know I'm getting really off, and this is very unlike me, as you guys that know me will say, but it feels that way, which means I think if there's ever a time for us to really start to have great spiritual health, it's right now. Being able to forgive, being able to understand someone else's opinion, being able to listen and willing to listen to somebody else's without getting so ready to give your opinion. How about just listening to someone else's opinion and not saying a word about what yours is, and really going and thinking about what it is that person is using your emotional intelligence to understand why it is that person feels the way they do, and maybe having some compassion and potentially some empathy to understand why it could make total sense to that individual and be completely opposite of the way that you think, and it makes sense, and they're not necessarily wrong. Wouldn't that be something if we could actually start doing that? We've got to start getting back to that as a society. To me, it feels like our society is going, I don't mean to have this be a hellfire and brimstone episode, but it just does to me. But it's not too late. It's not too late for you guys, not too late for all of us individually to at least work on ourselves. You cannot change the opinions of other people. You can't help anybody else. We can help give ourselves a little bit more clarity, give ourselves some wonderful spiritual health, and be able to rise above and move past this. So this is not a long episode. I knew it wouldn't be, because it's really difficult. But the main goal of this episode was to get you guys thinking about those three parts of your life. Yeah, and again, start thinking about, as you guys are traveling out there and working alone, you've got great opportunities, I've always said, to get your mental state right, to do some clear thinking, to be selfish about your time, like we've talked about in numerous episodes, and we'll continue to talk about getting your head on straight. I mean, for lack of a better word, this is a great opportunity, and many of you have it. What happens is we all just choose to stop work and veg out. Not good. I don't think that's good. We didn't used to veg out. In the 60s and 70s, people didn't just veg out. We were less comatose and dependent upon entertainment and more on our own. I mean, just talk about like family game night. I don't know about you guys, but if you grew up in a family where you guys played a board game, and how many families do that now? No, they're not. They're not even playing video games. That was probably the 80s and 90s. Now people are just doing their own thing on here and just, mindlessly letting other people entertain them, or letting other people give their opinions on things. Great opportunity for you guys to change that and start working on your own spiritual health. Look at the definition of spiritual health. It will open your eyes to something I believe that all of us need to say, I got to focus on that, because nobody does. We're focusing on physical fitness. We're focusing on our nutrition. We're focusing on learning and definitely working on some of our cognitive areas, but we're not talking about spiritual health ever, anywhere. It's about time I think we did. So it's very hard to achieve this, but I do think it's a very easy thing for you to be focusing on and constantly be looking at. And when you see people that have this, I'm very envious of that, because I know that they are confident in the individual that they are, and the individual in what they're becoming. I think, for lack of a better word. And if we could all start doing that, that's what I try to do every single day. I'm trying to become a better human. I don't know what else you would want to do in life. Do you really want to drive a faster car? Do you really want to live in a bigger house? Or do you really want to be a better human? I think at the end of the day, that choice is going to be really obvious. Fast forward to the end of your life, what are you going to be most proud about? I don't think it's going to be about the car you drove. Guys, I appreciate it. Thanks for listening to me on my little philosophical spin on today's episode of Spiritual Health. I will catch you guys next time on Travel Evolved.